Footballers and movies tend to be a pretty terrible combination. Just ask Rio Ferdinand and Dwight York and Frank Lampard and Mark Bosnich and Kieran Dyer and Dele Alli and Jamie Vardy. Anyway, mental images to one side for a moment, there is some entertainment to be derived when the stars of the beautiful game step in front of a camera. Sadly, a life of punting a ball around leaves precious little time for professional acting training. So while the likes of Eric Cantona have carved out entire careers on their own natural talent, that relegates every other footballer who wants to go to, at best, cameo status. My name is Adam Cleary and these are the 10 weirdest footballer cameos in movies. Number 10, Frank LEBOEUF, The Theory of Everything. Previously just regarded as that doctor who looked weirdly like former Chelsea defender Frank LEBOEUF, it transpires that the doctor asking if they should take Stephen Hawking off the life support machine in The Theory of Everything is, honestly, former Chelsea defender Frank LEBOEUF. This confounded UK audiences, and I imagine past everyone in the States by, but French viewers of the movie were likely already aware of his latter-day career as, of all things, a critically acclaimed actor. Following his retirement, he quietly moved to Los Angeles, began studying at an acting school, and successfully made the transition to film, television, and the stage. He could have just quietly collected good money rolling his eyes at the French national team as a pundit, or enjoyed a tumultuous 18 months as Marseille manager, but no, the man's heart lay in acting, and he followed it across the Atlantic and into the Oscar-winning The Theory of Everything. He currently stars in French crime drama Magellan, and I have never seen that. Number 9, FITZ, The Fifth Element. Do you know what? I can think of no way to adequately open this entry beyond simply stating, I absolutely promise you this isn't a wind-up, but FITZ, the FITZ, QPR and Crystal Palace defender FITZ, honestly, actually, madly, truly, FITZ was in the movie The Fifth Element. The actual Fifth Element as well, not some weird knockoff. The proper one with Bruce Willis, Mia Djokovic and Gary Oldman's oily head. FITZ was in The Fifth Element. Quite how he ended up there, he's never actually gone into too much detail on, but he has confirmed that the 12-year-old in the opening scene of the movie is indeed him. When the giant penguin gods, I forget their real name, arrive in early 20th century Egypt to borrow a super weapon, it's FITZ's gobsmacked face that greets the landing of their spaceship. As far as footballer cameos in movies go, you'll struggle to find a more random alignment of success of player versus prominence of role. Still though, it does mean that there's only one degree of professional separation between Chris Tucker and Emil Heskey. Number 8, Stan Collymore, Basic Instinct 2. In what's perhaps the most 2006 thing that ever happened, alleged dogger and former Liverpool striker Stan Collymore was cast as the opening love interest for the long-awaited Basic Instinct sequel. Just in case my tone wasn't entirely clear there, and I've just realised you couldn't see me doing the air quotes, absolutely nobody was asking for this movie, and even if they were, Stan Collymore wasn't on their list of people who necessitated inclusion. Simply sitting in a sports car's passenger seat, pulling increasingly funny faces while she's driving. The car accelerates through London streets and then crashes into the Thames. No sooner has he entered the film is he killed off, and the rest of the movie revolves around David Morrissey trying to work out if she did it on purpose or not. During the press tours, Sharon Stone tipped Collymore for future stardom in the wake of this movie, and he never acted again. Whoops. Number 7, Robbie Keane, Mrs. Brown's Boys. This isn't a movie, I'll just get that out of the way. But I absolutely refuse to let Robbie Keane get away with doing this on a technicality. Yes, you see, despite being lucky enough to play for all 12 of his boyhood clubs, Robbie Keane also landed a once-in-a-lifetime cameo appearance on BBC comedy staple, and if I'm honest, the single worst television programme I have ever seen in my entire life, Mrs. Brown's Boys. Playing a Mormon, where to begin, with an incredibly bad American accent, he's joined by snooker player Ken Doherty in the worst sporting double act since Rudy Voller's hair and Frank Rijkaard's phlegm. Keane apparently rang the show's star Brendan O'Carroll several times to ask for a part in it. All done, apparently, in a Mrs. Brown voice. Horrendous. Number 6, Neymar. XXX The Return of Xander Cage. There's an incredibly surreal moment in XXX The Return of Xander Cage, and yes, I mean that even in the context of XXX movies full stop, where Samuel L. Jackson's Augustin Gibbons is putting a fairly eloquent recruitment pitch to a prospective new member. After hearing him compare the organisation to the teenage skateboarders who took over suburban pools in the 1970s, for some reason the camera switches to reveal that he's talking to Neymar. Not in some bizarre bit of casting that's got him playing the role of a young Brazilian spy, but actually just Neymar, sat there opposite Sam Jackson hovering over a huge bowl of ramen listening to some spy stories. The Barcelona at the time striker declines his advances before taking out a man attempting to rob the restaurant by volleying a napkin holder directly into his face. The two are then immediately killed by a falling satellite before it's revealed at the end that they just faked their deaths in order to escape the media spotlight and revive the XXX program together. Cute. Number 5, Mike Ashley. Goal 3, taking on the world. Now, okay, Mike Ashley is not a footballer, I know this, but since when has his suitability for a role ever stopped him taking it? The man's a slimy, greedy, two-faced, stack 'em high, sell 'em low, jobs for the boys, lied to Parliament that time, exploitative shill, and he wound up running one of the most community-centric football clubs in the world. He's not an actor either, but for the low price of just £3 million, he was allowed to have one line of dialogue in the final movie of the Goal trilogy. Standing in an executive box, wearing a Newcastle United kit, and with a face like a goblin chewing a wasp, he offers PK as his sole contribution to the performing arts. That is £1 million per word. Much like everything else the man touches, Goal 3 was decried as an irredeemable low spot in the franchise and killed any plans for further films. Was this entirely Ashley's fault? Well, you'd expect not, but then again, Newcastle United were one of the most competitive teams in the country before he got involved there, and that decline's apparently not his fault either, is it? So, who knows? Number 4, David Beckham. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Just gonna hijack my own video here by first assuming that everybody watching it already knows about David Beckham's small but prominent role in Guy Ritchie's King Arthur movie. If you don't, well, he's in it at an important moment no less, has a good few lines, and the film absolutely tanked. That's about all you need to know. What I want to talk about is how every single person who saw the film came away sneering at his acting ability. His handful of interactions with Charlie Hoon, however you say that, saw him play the role of grizzled, impatient, rude army man who's more concerned with taking down our hero than he was with maintaining an orderly queue for him. Thing is, if you watch it back, the reason he comes off as janky and wooden and awkward is because the script is horrendous. Presumably asked to adopt an absurd Mockney accent for the part, he's given "bouncing on my knee, where do you think I want you? Hands on the hilt, stupid," to work with. Daniel Day-Lewis couldn't have made that sound like something a normal person would ever actually say, and if you strip away the dialogue, it's probably the best non-Frank LEBOEUF cameo in this entire list. Anyway, that's my TED Talk. Number 3, Ian Wright, Gun of the Black Sun. For reasons that are somehow beyond me, Ian Wright once starred in a movie described as a fun fantasy adventure that centers on a ruthless megalomaniac's ambition, has furious car chases, fast motorcycles, and a Luger pistol linked to the Third Reich, and it went under everybody's radar. Even more unbelievable than this, though, is that Ian Wright's performance in the film was easily the most critically lauded element of the entire movie. Where the plot and direction got labelled as, I'll be kind here, not a classic, his debut role was picked out as a reason alone to bother watching the thing. Well, in some circles it was, anyway. Either way, the movie sadly didn't pave the way for a rich career in acting, and almost a decade after its release remains his solitary outing in the dramatic arts. Number 2, Olivier Giroud, Spider-Man. In the French version of Into the Spider-Verse, Norman Osborn and his villainous alter ego the Green Goblin are voiced by Olivier Giroud. Spider-Man New Generation, as it's titled in France, both Giroud and PSG defender Presnel Kimpembe were both cast in small but important roles for the alternate language dub of what is, let's face it my friends, probably the greatest animated movie ever made. No ads please. While the story centers around the many various Spider-Men, women, pigs, whatever, the closing scene when New York's entire rogues gallery descends on our heroes is an incredible moment in the movie. Among the many voices within are two of France's most prominent footballers, with Giroud playing the incredibly named La Bouffon Vert. My major takeaway from this, of course, is that when he signed for PSG, Kimpembe's new goalkeeping colleague Gianluigi's surname actually translates as Goblin. Every day's a school day. Number 1, Zinedine Zidane, Asterix at the Olympic Games. A lot of people, nerds probably, will tell you that Zinedine Zidane's greatest performance came against Brazil in the 2006 World Cup or in the 2002 Champions League final for Real Madrid. However, what they're failing to consider is his seminal part in what is both officially 2007's worst French movie and the undoubted low point of Gérard Depardieu's career, Asterix at the Olympic Games. Not exactly a blink and you'll miss it moment, but wanting to get across the highly subtle concept that the Olympic Games might feature some sports, producers crammed every single famous face they could get into its near torturous 117-minute runtime. Michael Schumacher's there, as too is Tony Parker, and showing off an eyeliner game that any reformed 40-plus-year-old punk rocker would be proud of is Zidane himself. He even gets a couple of lines as well. After toying with his cousin by juggling a ball with his feet, get it? He then admits that he really likes his wig, get it? Before passing it to Parker, who starts bouncing it instead. Do you get the jokes? Despite the movie being a critical bomb, and it really was a critical bomb, this remains Zidane's most impactful performance away from Marco Materazzi's chest.